Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, February 16th, 2018.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is a podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And today, we got to start here. The Chicago Blackhawks have lost 8 games in a row. And that
film at 11.
That is significant. I mean, that's just and so today the panic is out in the streets. Obviously, I mean, we can get into what the Blackhawks can do if they're going to be buyers or sellers. I mean, obviously they're not buyers at this point.
Well, we know everything.
He scored a goal.
Yeah, we know everything's going to be rectified by that blockbuster Ville Polka for Chris DiDomenico trade. So
yeah, of course, there's that. But this is going to be it. We've seen this group, the Bowman group here. We've seen them go through different kinds of scenarios. We've seen them go through something that's really remarkable twice, building it kind of as winning the Stanley Cup, losing a majority of their players, and then coming back and, winning again through really crafty dealings and stuff like that. It's one thing to deal from a position of strength, I guess. It's another deal from a position of weakness and how they're going to handle this whole turnaround.
Well, the difference between the last two instances where they traded the Versteeg Bufflin group, Dave Boland, and then they moved out.
They traded Jarmelson. Jarmelson was the key,
right?
Jarmelson and Saad, and the thing is, the difference is that the core group that they kept is not 23 anymore. Right. They're 30.
Right.
But also 30. The Saad that they got back is not the Saad that they.
Well, I was talking about the original one when they traded him.
I know. It's not the same Saad.
Still young.
They traded.
They
traded him as the same. They traded him as an RFA when he was good, when he was working well with Taves. He goes to Columbus, he comes back, and Russ is right. He's not the same player. I think he's still a decent player. It's not working out there. But the point I was making was they had to move him out, not because he wasn't good enough. It was because they couldn't pay him, and they had to move out Panarin for the same reason. So it's catching up to them because the core group now, instead of making, what were Taves and Kane making? 7.5. Now they're making 10.5. Now Seabrook's making close to 7, and he's not the same defenseman. Keith is making 5.5 on a long-term deal. Crawford's been in and out of the line. I mean, there's so many things in terms of injuries and age that are factoring in that team. That
the other thing is too, the issue with Saad is he was never the fleetest of foot, and it was a guy that could muscle in the crease and get those goals. And if he's not getting that, he is getting slow for this league. That's the issue.
Right, but he's not old. I mean,
but it doesn't matter.
I thought
age doesn't matter.
He was on the North American team, right? In the World Cup. I mean,
yes.
It's so funny. Like, and that team he didn't look slow on that team. That's, when I saw him there, I didn't, think he was. I don't know. I think that.
But that's a year ago.
Yeah, and he's not on Taves' line anymore. I mean, I don't track Chicago as often as I track the teams in the Eastern Conference, but I know that he's playing a bottom 6 role right now, and that's not what Brandon Saad is. So it's clearly not working. But I mean, like I said, the problems are more than that. The problems are Jarmelson covered up Seabrook's inadequacies. Seabrook has certain positive aspects to his game. He's getting older, he's getting slower, but that pairing, they were a hinge. They worked off of each other. Now Jarmelson's gone. I'm not trying to destroy Connor Murphy, but Connor Murphy is nowhere close to being the defenseman that Jarmelson is, and they don't really have any young guys yet that are stepping up on defense. Forsling, all these, Ruta, all these guys they brought in, they're not filling the holes like have happened in the past.
No, for sure. A great little fun thing last night. I don't know if you heard about the Ovechkin thing, but it was just kind of fun. Ovechkin walked to the visiting team's bench during the Wild skate.
I did see that, yeah.
They hi to Bruce Boudreau, and Bruce Boudreau shouted to him, "Hey, I thought you were going to the Olympics." Love it. Gotta love that. Now, I mean, Boudreau was always is a good guy, such a jokester, and I'm sure Ovechkin enjoyed it as well.
It was a fun troll.
But definitely a good troll. Let's talk a little bit about the Olympics for a second too, and then we move on. But this morning, the U.S. wins a game yesterday against the Slovaks in a good game.
Did they win it, or did they just not lose it?
I thought they won that one. I mean,
I mean, Ryan Donato may have won that one. The team still doesn't look great. Let's face it.
The team doesn't look good. The goaltending doesn't look good to me, even though he had a good game, but or relatively good game.
No, the rebounds. You know what the problem is?
Yeah.
He is giving up so many rebounds in the middle. It's scary.
And how about what was it? Pierre McGuire in the middle of it in the middle of the U.S. game saying, yeah, we're just not sure about the skill level of this goalie for the USA. Like throwing that out there in the middle of the Olympics, it's like you're in the Olympics. I know what we're talking about, but I think that everything has to be sort of put into perspective sometimes. I mean, he's not,
it does.
He's not like, I mean, we're still, if we're trying to compare this to the Olympics of the past, we're going to fall short every time. So that's the problem. I mean, you can't look at it that way at all. You just can't. I mean, people have watched other tournaments. I mean, this is a better than average Spengler Cup, basically, and it's good, but you have some good teams in here, and you have some good players. But let's talk about Sweden because you had an interesting line today in Sweden. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, let me just ask one thing to Russ. Donato, he's in his junior year at Harvard. He's a Boston Bruins draft pick. There is a lot of talk that after Harvard season, he may sign with the Bruins. The question is he somebody who steps right into the NHL lineup, or does he need more?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't get that impression either. It's interesting. I mean, just they're making it like he is going to when on the.
Well, they always do because it's like the Olympics, and we saw Brian Leetch do it, but this is different.
Yeah.
And they might be doing that so the Bruins can get him signed. Saying, oh, you'll come right into the NHL, and then once he's signed, now you're going to Providence.
Yeah, and I like Donato a lot, but no, I don't think that'll happen.
Okay. It's so funny because even let's go back to like the 1980s Olympic team. Even that team when they came out of that Olympics, there's some of them that did go right to the NHL.
Sure, a lot of them did.
A lot of them did, but who had the biggest impact was probably Ken Morrow. Who was like sort of.
I mean, he stepped into a ready-made situation with the Islanders.
He really fit in perfectly to that team and helped that team. And some of the other ones took a while.
I mean, Pavlich scored a lot of goals. He did.
Yeah. Mike Ramsey was good right from the very beginning with the Sabres. After the Sabres brought in 3 Olympians. They brought in McClanahan, Strobel, and Ramsey. And McClanahan and Strobel didn't last too long, but Ramsey was here forever. And guys like Mark Johnson, Dave Christian stepped in with Winnipeg and scored a ton of goals after the Olympics.
Yeah. And Bob Suter was real good too, right?
Yeah, he was good right off the bat too.
I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll look.
I think I saw the first game because I think it was in Philly, the first game that that Jim Craig played for the Atlanta Flames right after the Olympics. He was in Philly. It was pretty cool.
And let's see, Bob Suter didn't play in the NHL.
No, okay,
no.
Was he? What? There was a Suter though, no?
Well, obviously Gary Suter, but that was his brother, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Gary's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no. But Steve Kristoff and stepped in with the North Stars, and even the backup goaltender Steve Janaszak got a cup of coffee with the Stars as a goaltender. He started a few.
But he's talking about really good. I would say
we're talking about impact. This was an 80. This was a class. This was a team that just that was everything to everybody. And then those players and put them in the NHL, and it was
the impact guys were Neil Broughton, who was great from the very beginning. Morrow won Stanley Cups. I think Mike Ramsey was a very good NHL defenseman for a number of years. Mark Johnson and Dave Christian. I mean, that's 5. That's 5 players who
I think Pavlich had a 40-goal year and a couple of 25-30 before he moved to the Woods.
Yeah, he did.
Right. And he, and at that time, of course, Eruzione really never did anything in the NHL at all, right? So
Craig didn't, and
Well, let's take that, and I think this is where you're going at. Let's take that, and then the note that I sent to both of you guys about Rasmus Dahlin, who we saw play. I mean, Russ, he was playing 20 minutes tonight. He was playing every minute of the power play for Sweden at the World Junior. He didn't play against friggin' Norway, and then he plays 4 minutes today against Germany. I mean, my God, what the hell is this coach doing?
Okay, so I could answer what happened. So, and again, I don't know who's coaching what system, and maybe one of these coaches is overlapping. But like 2 years ago at the under-18, he was a younger guy, and they weren't playing him. And then all of a sudden when they did play him, he looked great. But it was almost like he had to wait his turn. It's like a class system. So then at the World Juniors, he's one of the older guys. So it's okay. Like one of the of age guys, not older, but of age guys. So he got to play his fair share. Now at the Olympics, he's one of the younger guys again. And so this seems to be like a thing with the Swedish hockey system.
Yeah, he played a ton of minutes in the 2018 World Juniors. When he was a 16-year-old in the 2017 World Juniors, they didn't.
He got misplayed. Yeah, in the under 18s and those World Juniors. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, really good points. So, meanwhile, though, Eli Tolvanen has had a heck of an Olympics already.
He's ready for the NHL. I'm telling you, he's ready.
Yeah, and do you think Nashville brings him in right away?
Oh yeah,
they bring him in right away. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more and more I think about it, I'm thinking Russ is right on this. They maybe David Poile goes out, and if he sees a bargain in terms of when we talked to Pete Weber early in the week, if they see a bargain out there as a rental, maybe they go ahead and do that. But I'm starting to think that the guy that their top 6 or top 9 ad is when Tolvanen's KHL year is over with, and he just comes over and steps in the lineup. He's that good.
He is.
But now, he's not going to be able to play in the playoffs if that's the case, right?
Yeah, he's signed.
Oh, they have him signed. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, he's signed. As soon as his KHL year is over with, he can come over.
Okay, so yeah, I mean his just scoring incredible. I mean the goal against Norway was beautiful. Really good stuff that he's got 3 goals and 6 points in the Olympics already.
I mean, you put him on the ice, he scores goals. That's just what he does.
Yeah, I mean, what a great connection. I mean, this is somebody that we can imagine with Forsberg, like an actual combination here with those two.
Well, I don't know if they're going to put him with Forsberg. I mean, it is the playoffs and he's a rookie, but I think that
but I mean, down the line here, I mean, that's
sure.
No, down the line, yeah. In the playoffs, he'll probably be a third liner.
Yeah, no, for sure. But so we did actually get our first look at FNUF last night. After all the talk about whether or not we would because of the the issues with immigration and all that. But yeah, I mean, FNUF came in. I thought he looked pretty good, even though the Kings still couldn't get the victory against the Penguins. The Penguins are Matt Murray just had a hell of a game too. Matt Murray,
Quickest to 100 wins. Is that what I saw for his age?
Yep, 100 wins. Or no, I think I said 100. I thought he's played 100 games.
I thought it was 100 games. Okay, maybe it's 100 games. Sorry,
and something like it's crazy. It's a crazy record that he's got for his first 100 games.
It is. I saw the headline flash quickly, and I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, no, it's really really nuts. I mean, he has had actually. I mean, FNUF did get a goal last night, of course. But that was something else. There's and it's slowly but surely Matt Duchene, who's come on for Ottawa, even though Ottawa's far out, makes interesting last night that he now has more points than Kyle Turris has with Nashville, which was made.
Which again, I told people they were overreacting with Duchene. Yeah. They were.
Yeah, it takes a while.
And Gabrick got his goal too.
Let's talk a little bit about the Rangers-Islanders game.
Well, hold on. Gabrick got his goal too. Remember?
Yeah, Gabrick gets a goal too. Isn't that crazy?
And as my suspicion when that trade was made, and I still think that Ottawa is going to try their utmost to say, "Hey, Marion, like subliminally retire."
No, I think they're going to just move them on. They're going to.
Well, John Shannon this morning mentioned that the likely goal here is to buy him out at the end of this year. The buyout over 6 years is, I think it's 1.2. There's a couple peaks and valleys there, but it's like 1.2 for the last 3 years. And maybe one of the motivations for this deal was FNUF's salary for the last 3 years of his contract was $18.5 million, and the last 3 years of Gabrick's was around 10. And even with the retention of 25% of FNUF's salary, Ottawa saves money if they buy out Gabrick. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. But wait, Mike. The one thing, though, and where maybe John's not thinking about it. What if over these next 10 days he has 5 goals? Somebody will take that contract.
This is what Gabrick does.
They'll take 3 years.
What Gabrick does. He still has enough. He just doesn't always give you the effort. Because I don't know if he's afraid of getting hurt or if he's afraid of getting injured, but he doesn't play full out. But when he plays full out, this is why he got the contract with LA. This is the whole point. I mean, he still has so much skill.
I think the 3 years scare will scare some teams off, Russ. It's sort of. I agree. It's sort of like if you could get a guarantee from him, like LA got from Vinny Lecavalier, saying, if you want to play another year, fine. But we need to know like when you want to retire, because if you don't want to retire if you want to stay here for 3 years, we're not trading for you. If you want to stay here for another year, fine. But
maybe he does that, and maybe he does do that.
Yeah. No, maybe he does. I mean, I think that the Penguins now also 10 wins in a row at home. So throw that out there too.
Shocking.
They're on.
That's completely shocking. We never saw it coming.
I know. Get back the goalie, and the goalie's playing well again, and everything's there. But let's talk a little bit about the crazy Islanders Rangers battle last night, Russ.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it, but I was keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, I mean, Halak, it's just like comes in with 50 saves against the Rangers.
He the one thing about Halak is, and I did see a lot of those saves, and they were good saves. He ratchets his game up for the Rangers and plays great against the Rangers. And a lot of times will never, ever, ever play that well against other teams. But with the Rangers, he does play well. It's an amazing thing.
I really don't understand it. Like, I mean, Halak, he has this obvious other level. He has this other level.
Well, was Lundqvist matching up against him?
Yeah, I think so.
That's why. Yeah, that's why. I think he elevates to what Lundqvist does when he plays against the Rangers.
Yeah, I don't care in a short term what Halak and Greiss do, because it's clear to me over the long haul that they're not good enough to, maybe they'd be good enough for them to sneak into the playoffs, but they're not good enough for that team to advance. And that's why I think it's incumbent upon Garth Snow to upgrade the goaltending. And if he can't do it by the deadline and they miss the playoffs, then I think his job should be in jeopardy, which a lot of Islanders fans think as well. Well,
considering they bought a billboard, I guess they do think that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. Yes, it was definitely Lundqvist last night. I thought it was. I was watching just parts of it in and out, but I thought it was Lundqvist. And another game that was interesting last night to me was the Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes are back and forth really right now. They look like they weren't going to fall out of it. Then they went on this run, and I'm keeping such an eye on them because they keep continually popping up in trade rumors. Like they keep and that you would think that means that they are definitely a buyer, and I think they are a buyer no matter what. I get the impression that their management and their ownership want to show what this is about. They want to show that we're going to try to win, and even if they're not in the playoffs right at the deadline, if they're like 3 or 4 points out or something like that, I don't think it's going to matter to them. I think they're going to go out there and make a deal.
Yeah,
and I think they will too. I think it'll just be responsible. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think Ron Francis is gonna go willy nilly like Darcy Regier did in Buffalo.
No.
When he got Big Daddy Pagula's big billions, and they went out and traded for Brad Boyes when he came in, when Brad Boyes was still a pretty decent player, and that was prudent. But then the following summer was the Ville Leno and Christian Ehrhoff insanity. So I mean, I don't think
we
Francis
still talk about that Ville Leno signing in Philly. We did.
Oh my God, it's just completely dumb. And the thing was, they signed him to be a center, and he proved in Philadelphia he was better as a winger than he ever was as a center. He was a failed center in Detroit, and they moved him to the wing, and he was a success. And that was how I think stupid that Regier was with that signing. But the thing is, Carolina, they need to get offense. They really need to get either a scoring winger or a center, and there's not a center in this market, in this trade market, unless somebody is out there that we don't know about. So, does that put them in the Evander Kane or Rick Nash? I mean, Rick Nash maybe would be a decent fit for
I could see Nash. I
think Nash is where and that's what I wrote about yesterday. You guys probably discussed it yesterday a little bit, but what I wrote about yesterday is this concept of keep hearing of Toronto and the Rangers trying to work out a deal. And I continually have heard the Rangers are trying to package McDonough and Nash together, which I find is really.
I would question that one.
I don't know who can handle 11.
No, I don't think no one can, and that's why in what I wrote about yesterday and what I'm talking about now is the fact that there would be a third team involved in this. That you have something like McDonough going to Toronto and Nash going to Carolina, say, or Nash going to Nashville, which I don't think is. I think the Nashville stuff is being created by the New York. I think the Rangers are trying to get Nashville to look like they're involved. The Predators are not really
Nashville.
What they're looking for.
Really aren't involved with Rick Nash as far as I can go, and no one seems to. I mean, and one thing I've learned is I don't think anyone has any idea what David Poile is doing, because Poile has been really. Right. He's been very although he's so aggressive that, like we talked about yesterday, people think he's going to be aggressive again, but he's not going to be aggressive again. There's no point in him being aggressive again right now. So
well, he does, and I mentioned this last night at the Puck Talks event I did. Even really good general managers like David Poile can make stupid moves out of desperation. And 4 years ago, when they thought that they had a legitimate chance to win the Stanley Cup, he makes a deal around this time, trading Brendan Leipzig, who was a young prospect, speedy young prospect, and a first-round pick to the Maple Leafs for Cody Franzen and Mike Santorelli. Santorelli was mostly a third-line guy. Franzen was in Nashville before. Franzen was on their bottom pairing, and he had been playing top 4 minutes in Toronto, and it wasn't a fit this time around because his specialty was the power play, and Weber and Yossi were the point guys in the power play, so it was a bad move, and they gave up a first-round pick. I don't think he's doing that this year. I think he's going to look for the bargain and add a player and probably avoid giving up the Dante Fabros or those type of high-end prospects.
Yeah, I don't think any of those are going anywhere.
Yeah, they're going to keep those guys.
Yeah, they don't have to do that. I mean, they have so much depth. They have so much going on. I mean, you got this kid coming over from the Olympics. Fisher comes in and just fills a nice role for them. It's, very, very much of a role for them. That leaves them with all the. I mean, remember how deep they were last year. How well they played in the playoffs despite losing all those players. They've got tons of forwards.
But Carolina has got that bevy of blue liners that is extremely attractive to teams out there that are short on defense. And if there's a team out there with an excess of forwards like a Toronto, like a Winnipeg, and they need defensive help, a guy. I'm not saying they're going to trade Hannafin, but there's a number of guys out that they might be willing to trade that I think the components of a good deal are there.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I wanted to discuss a little bit the crazy Atlantic, the top of the Atlantic, which looks so secure as Tampa being the team that was going to win it. Boston's going to be second, Toronto's third. These teams have gone on an absolute crazy tear in the last 10 games. I mean, the Leafs and Boston combined are 17-3 in their last 20. Yeah,
I mean the Leafs have benefited from. I mean, December they were almost totally on the road. They played 3 home games and 10 road games in December. Then they came back after that and didn't play very well at home. I think, they were either tired or just mentally tired or whatever. This time around, they had a 5-game homestand. They swept it. Frederik Andersen is playing out of his mind. But there's still the signs there. I mean, and this is why all these rumors about defense keep coming up. They were playing Tampa last week. They were up 3-0 in the second period. Tampa has been in a sort of a slump right now. Tampa scored 3 goals in 5 minutes and tied up the game. That's how good Tampa is. Even when they're playing badly, they're good enough to just strike like that. And now that's a sign. No, I'll tell you right now, Tampa is looking for defensive help. They're playing Braden Coburn on the second pairing. He should be a third pairing guy. Sergachev is a really good rookie, but I think if you're going into the playoffs, I think you need a veteran presence there on the second pairing to maybe offset his inexperience. Maybe they're in on Mike Green, maybe they're in on Jack Johnson, but I think they're that's where they're going. Boston, I mean, you hear the McDonough stuff. And I just saw this because Ty Anderson responded to it. Jim Matheson, the Edmonton Journal reporter, who's veteran guy, says, "I'm hearing the Rangers would want Bruins rookie Jake DeBrusk included in any deal for Ryan McDonough." That's probably a no-go for Boston because they love DeBrusk.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're getting a guy who is a top pairing guy and would move Brandon Carlo down, right, you're going to have to give up Jake DeBrusk and more.
Yeah, I'd say. No, you have to, and I think that Boston why would Boston do that really right now? Like Boston, they're playing so well. I don't see why.
I don't think they would. I think Tampa would be more likely to do it than Boston.
I think Tampa will definitely trade their first round pick for a veteran defenseman because I think they're all in. This team can win it now. They're deep. They're talented. They got the goaltending.
They got contract coming up.
Kucherov is up after next year. They have to strike while the iron's hot. Boston's surprising. They've had a lot of young players. I think they want to add a veteran D, and I think that they have prospects in the organization like Zaboral or Senyshyn that they could maybe trade to get a veteran guy and not really hurt their long-term future. So I mean, that's where they're at, but they're not going to go all in. And Toronto's in the same situation. I think that, you know, if McDonough is truly available, I think they're interested, but they're not trading Nylander. They're not trading Marner.
I think just like in baseball, like everybody's always looking for a reliever when it comes to the playoffs. Everybody's always looking for a defenseman in hockey now. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. No, you're right. Everybody is always looking for it. And you know, there are very few ever available at this point. And, you know, I mean, McDonough, I think what they're trying, I honestly, at the end of the day, still don't think they're going to trade him. And I've told people this.
This could be a contract ploy.
It could be a contract play. It's also just the idea that they see this market as so crazy hot.
But this may be a way to get him to move off some of the terms that his agent maybe has said to the team.
Right.
I think that's a really strong possibility. You know, I really do.
I do too.
I was looking at Tampa, Boston, Toronto, and their record versus the Atlantic versus the Metro, just to see where they are, because right now all three of those teams are, I think, are all three ahead of Washington in the standings. You know, so the top three teams in the Eastern Conference are in the Atlantic Division. So you're looking at how good are they really? You know, how good are they if they were to play their own divisions? And what's interesting is they're pretty consistent in as far. I mean, I guess, you know, Toronto is 8. If you want to do 8-5-1 versus the Atlantic, and 10-6-2 versus the Metro. So that's pretty much the same. Boston's 12-2-2 versus the Atlantic. Boston just killed the Atlantic.
Yeah.
But they're 11-3-4 versus the Metro. So the crazy thing is, I mean, Boston has just been killing the Eastern Conference in general.
And
right, but you know what I think this is? I think the top of the Atlantic is the same or as good as most of those teams in the Metro, including the ones that are currently out of the playoff race by a couple points. Right. I think that's what the line of demarcation is here.
Yeah,
I'll give you an interesting scheduling quirk, and I couldn't believe it when the schedule came out last June, Russ. The Leafs, it is now, February 16th? The Leafs still have not played the Sabres. They played them 4 times in the last month. And this is a Sabres team that is likely without Jack Eichel for the rest of the year. They're probably going to trade one of their goaltenders. They are a complete sitting duck. Now that doesn't preclude the possibility. Believe me, I'm from Buffalo. That does not preclude the possibility of Buffalo beating them 4 times, because that's
what they would rather do, Mike. There's nothing they'd rather do, you know, like that's
of course, that's their friggin' Stanley Cup.
It is. That really doesn't help them very much. You know, it's kind of like it really is I agree that it's weird. It's weird they haven't played them. I mean, like the Flyers are playing Montreal 3 times in 2 weeks here or something like that. It's kind of crazy.
But look, just talking about it, Mike took an extra hit of the Canada Dry there. It's getting to him.
Yeah.
But the thing is right now, these games, the Leafs are I think they played 58 or 59 games. The last 23 games are utterly meaningless. They're 20 points ahead of 4th place. They're a lock. They got to stay healthy. They have to stay healthy.
That's what I'm trying to determine. Is it meaningless? Because would you rather not play Boston or Tampa in the first round? Would you rather look down and play, you know, whoever was at fine? Would you rather get first place and play maybe somebody from the Metro Division in the first round? I mean, if Boston and Tampa are that good, which they both are right now, I mean, they're that good.
I would say no, and I'll tell you why. I would say no because some of those teams in the Metro are very veteran, and they will.
You locked up there, Russ.
I mean, I agree that the Metro. We lost you for a second, Russ, there, but you're back.
I just think they'll ratchet it up more, and some of those teams are pretty veteran in the Metro, and they could really ratchet it up. I think it's dangerous.
If they could guarantee themselves, extrapolate from this. If Toronto goes all out, wins the Atlantic, wins the President's Trophy, and plays the second wild card, which is going to be the second team out of the second wild card coming out of the Metro. If it's Philadelphia or if it's Carolina, 2 young teams,
or how about New Jersey?
Just like they are, or New Jersey, sure.
Right. It's good. It's very good chance it could be one of those 3 teams. I mean,
it's a good chance, but it could also be.
It's not going to be Pittsburgh or Washington. It's like it's going to be one of the other teams. It could be the Rangers, who have been very, you know,
the Islanders.
The Islanders, but I mean, the Islanders, they can't stop any. I mean,
but they score a lot. You want to play a team that scores a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think any one of those teams. I mean, Pittsburgh or Washington. Okay, I get it. You know, those are 2 tough teams, but the rest of the Metro, I think I'd rather play.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like
Boston or Tampa Bay.
No, but here's the thing. I understand that the likelihood of the Rangers not making it is good, and they probably will trade Nash. But if they get back all their healthy players and somehow they were in the playoffs, you would not want to play them first round.
Right. You definitely wouldn't. I mean,
Toronto, Carolina would be a snooze fest because it'd be Peters versus Babcock. Every game would be 2-1 in overtime. But a game against the Islanders, a game against maybe I mean, I know the Hackstall wants to play defensive, but I think his team is better when they
he'll play defensive, Mike. It's a guarantee.
So that'll be a snore fest too.
But the Islanders are the X factor. You don't want to play a team that could score like they can.
Yeah, I mean,
well, so terrible going against Toronto's offense. That's not
Toronto Islanders would be Pittsburgh Philly from a few years ago. It would be 7-6, and Babcock.
I covered that, and every time we tried to type who was scoring a goal, another goal was scored.
And Babcock would be bald. He'd be bald by the end of that 7-game series because he'd be pulling his hair out.
I think one game was like 7. Wasn't one game like 7-6?
Yeah, Brizgalov was a sieve.
I thought they got to 8 in one game too. It was insane. They
did get to 8.
They got to 8. It was just, and every lead was like a 3-goal lead meant nothing.
Right.
Remember, I think Pittsburgh had like 2 or 3 3-goal leads, and this blew them all. And Philly had leads and blew it all. That series was just lunacy. But that's not gonna. I think that really there's a real. If I'm the Atlantic, I want to win that division, no questions asked.
I can see that, but this is why I sort of have the point of view of what I do about Van Riemsdyk and Bozak in Toronto. If Toronto finishes in 3rd place, or even if they finish in 2nd place and get the home ice advantage in the first round, they have to go through Boston and Tampa to get out of the division. And I don't think that at their current level of maturation. And with their defense the way it is, I don't think they can do that. I think they can win a first round. I don't think they can beat both of them. And then in that instance, that's why I'm advocating them trading JVR and trading Bozak and getting assets for him, because to get the defense that you need to make the next step, you need to get the first round pick and prospect that you would get for JVR and whatever you get for Bozak. But I don't think they're going to do that because I don't think Babcock will let them do that. I think he's.
Well, here's the thing, though. So, Mike, we do need to talk about the Shoshnikov trade because that was St. Louis got a deal out of that, man. I mean, I'll take the player for a 4th rounder every time. Every time.
The Leafs were in a roster crunch. They were at 50 contracts. He played his 5-game conditioning stint. And on Monday, when I was up in Toronto, we're expecting, okay, he's going to be activated. Who's going to get sent down? He was recalled, but there's in the CBA, it basically says you can recall the guy but not activate him from the IR. He played 3 games on the weekend and was a beast, and they still said he wasn't 100% because they would either have to send Kapanen or Dermott down, who they don't want to because they're both playing well, or they'd have to place somebody on waivers, which they don't want to do. So they were in a roster crunch, and they were at 50 contracts. So they basically gave away a guy who I think, Russ, if he had stayed with Toronto, was going back to Russia next year because he was never going to get the opportunity to play in Toronto. They liked him, but he just was never going to break through and play anything more than an occasional 4th-line game and then maybe get sent down to the AHL. And they couldn't do that anymore because he had a clause in his contract. So
St. Louis, who's had injuries, St. Louis, who's had injuries, gets a guy with fresh legs because he hasn't played a lot this year, and he does have talent. Like, this is a good pickup for them, even if it's just a rental. Who cares?
He does have talent, but the problem is he is very injury prone. He's been injured. He's played 2.5 years in the NHL. He's been injured, by my count, at least 5 times. He's had concussions. He plays a rough and tumble game, and he's 5'11" and 185 pounds. That's the problem. If he avoided that kind of confrontation, I think he could have a longer career. I just don't know. I hope for the best because he's a good kid. I mean, I've seen him a bunch of times, talked to him once, but I don't know. But it's a good deal for St. Louis.
Continuing to look out west. There's some crazy stats out west too that I was going through this today. The records versus divisions, East versus West type thing. Vegas, of course, is the first team to 80 points in the West. They got there last night, so we all knew that was going to happen, right? Yeah, I mean now they're 3 points ahead of Nashville now. I mean it's all it's crazy. It's just ridiculous. They're 2 points behind Tampa for the President's friggin' Cup.
It's an amazing thing.
It's absolutely insane.
Here's the real thing that is nuts about them. Okay, because you're like, oh, it's gonna get tough because they got a lot of divisional play down the stretch.
Right.
They're 14-1-1 versus their division.
Yeah, somebody walked up to me wearing a Vegas jersey last night and says, "Do you think they're for real?" And it says, "Well, even if I didn't think they're for real, it's 60 games into the season. They're for real. They've proved it. They're going to make they're going to make the playoffs.
They're making the playoffs, and if you make the playoffs, that's all that matters, right? So
that's all that matters. But the thing is, and I sort of buy into this argument. It's, do they have another gear? Because right now, I think they've been playing playoff hockey for 6
That's what I've said. Yeah, I said that a lot.
And I agree. I agree with that.
We all think that, but they've outthought us and outpaced what we've thought all year. So I can no longer say that. I know that's a prevailing thought.
Great playoff goalie. That's like you have to come back to, right? Like Marc-Andre Fleury has been a great playoff goalie. So I mean, he doesn't always have a great playoff goalie. Like the series,
he's battle tested though. But he's battle tested.
Russ and I remember the series we were just talking about against the Flyers. That wasn't such a great playoff series for him, but
he got pulled a few times.
He got pulled a lot in that series, but Vegas is now they are 10 points ahead of second place team in their division. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is they are actually putting themselves into a position to play against a Central team, probably, which is kind of that in the first round. So that's
think about it. If you're Foley, when they did these sales projections at the start of the season, there's no way they projected playoff revenue. No way, no how.
No.
This is like a windfall for them.
I mean, for having they don't have a lot of money spent on the cap. They're sitting there, they're just making money hand over fist. They're going to be crazy, and they're selling season tickets. People buying like 2-3 years at a time type things.
They're going to end up being like one of the top 10 teams in Forbes next year for making money.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting little twist. We've been talking about Ian Cole being on the trade market for a while. According to Darren Drager, it now looks like the Penguins are trying to trade Matt Hunwick because Ian Cole is now back in the good graces. He's playing 18 minutes a night, and now they're trying to trade Matt Hunwick. Matt Hunwick they signed for 3 years, and I think it was $2 to $2.5 million.
Much easier time trading Ian Cole than they're going to trade.
Right, because
it's harder to trade.
Yeah, Matt Hunwick is a 6'7", and they paid him over $2 million on a 3-year deal. Good luck, Jimmy. No way.
No, that's really going to be very, very hard. I mean, I'm not surprised that Ian Cole's back in it. I kind of was surprised the whole thing that was happening to Ian Cole all year. You know, it seemed kind of ridiculous on some levels because he has been such a good player for them.
You know what? If a team eats that deal, like with Hunwick, if they take it, Pittsburgh will have to give them a prospect just to get them to do it, above whatever the trade is.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. You're right about that, and they're going to have to do something pretty significant to get that to happen, to get that to come down. But I mean, so the standings as they continue to look, we're really starting to look at the jousting. I think in who's going to who wants to play who. That's starting to come into focus. I think you have to start to look at it. I mean, obviously you have no way of knowing in the Metro where teams are going to fall.
The Metro's going down to like the last couple of days.
But it seems like to me, Washington and Pittsburgh are going to run away with it. Like it feels like that's going to happen, right? So there's going to be basically a battle for 3 spots, and one of them is going to be, and the winner of that gets Pittsburgh. Let's throw that out there. Yeah. This is how it plays out. So the winner of the battle of the 3 spots for the Metro is going to get Pittsburgh in all likelihood, and that is crazy. So as the Rangers have learned time and time again.
Well, I mean, the one skeptic. I mean, I think you're right. I think Washington and Pittsburgh will separate themselves in the pack. I mean, I'm concerned about the Flyers right now. I'm waiting for Ron Hextall to make the move for the goaltender because they can't hold on to third place with Neuwirth and Alex Lyon. I think they need to get themselves, if they're comfortable with going with Neuwirth as the number 1, then they need to get a veteran backup like a Chad Johnson. And Russ and I discussed that on one of the shows during the week. Yeah. If they don't do that and they think they need somebody who can be a 1B, then maybe a guy like Mrazek or a guy like Robin Leonard, or I know Pierre LeBrun mentioned Calvin Pickard, but I don't know if the Leafs are going to trade him. But
I'll say this: I think they're as comfortable with Neuwirth as you would be comfortable duct taping your chair that you sit on every day that's broken.
They're very comfortable with him if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, then they're that the problem is that he's never stayed.
But you never know. Like he could be healthy today, and then after he wins 5 games, all of a sudden goes down, and then for like the last 10 games, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
at any point, and this team is I mean, they haven't had a goalie situation like this since they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's just they've had bad goalie situations, but remember how terrible that was. That was crazy.
And I don't think desperation is setting in Columbus, but I do think that
tonight it will. Tonight is the game for Columbus. This is the game. This might be the game of the season for the Blue Jackets tonight. They play the Flyers at home, and this is the perfect. We're looking at a team. Right now the Columbus they played the same amount of games. They're 4 points back of Philly. If they win tonight, that tightens everything up, and they're in great shape if they win in regulation. If the Flyers win in regulation tonight, that puts Columbus in a really serious spot.
I will say this. The Philly press knows how to annoy Torts, so look for the post-game stuff because they definitely get under his skin. We've seen it happen more than a few times.
Well, Columbus historically beats the Flyers pretty well. I mean, this is a team that has had pretty good luck against the Flyers. So I'm looking at this game. I think I would be, if I was a betting man, I would be looking at Columbus as being a good possibility to take this game. And if the Flyers were to take this game, that would be a real.
Is this your lock of the week, Ek? Are you going to go that far?
For tonight, I would say yes. For lock of tonight, for sure. But if
the night, there you go.
If the Flyers were to win this game, that would surprise me, and that would definitely put the Flyers into a different level of suddenly thinking, okay, maybe they are in the top 3 of this division.
Well, Russ, I'll give you a week on your scenario that the Rangers are actually, or who was it? Wayne Simmons that said that they weren't actually going to dump 50. They're at 59 points with 58 games. They're 3 points behind the Islanders and Columbus. They're 4 points behind Carolina. They're 7 points behind Philly and New Jersey. If they don't gain any significant ground in the next, I'd say 3 or 4 days, then I think it's dump city.
Yeah, I agree.
This weekend is huge for them, and I think that
I think that's what they're waiting. I think that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah, I do too. What's crazy is though, I really feel like all of this has been terrible for them, like the Nash stuff and the McDonough stuff, and it just has been.
It's not great for a team. I mean, Vigneault in a post game about a week ago, a friend of mine, Mark Roseman, told me that Vigneault came within an inch of sort of blaming locker room problems on Larry Brooks for putting it in print, but he didn't do it. He stopped himself.
Yeah, I mean that, and that's what Larry would have loved that.
Of course. I mean,
that's the whole point.
Do you want to take some questions from the chat?
That.
Okay. Goalie FP asks, what is the likelihood that Ottawa trades Erik Karlsson before the deadline?
Very, very small.
Slim.
The only team that can do it is Tampa. And everybody, and I've heard that many times now, that lots of teams could trade him in the offseason, could trade for him. The only team that can do it for the deadline is Tampa. And that's if McDonough, and I know they're going hard after McDonough now, but no one really trusts the Rangers on this. And I talk to people about the McDonough thing. Everyone's like, yeah, I don't know if they're really trading. We're talking to him, but I don't.
Yeah.
They don't want to be left hanging at 259, like waiting for McDonough.
Right. No one wants to focus on that because you could easily get stuck on a team that doesn't really want to trade him. That is either using it as a negotiation point, like you said, Russ, or just wants so much for him that it's just insane. So.
Yeah, and that's why Green and Johnson and Gabranson will probably all go before, they'll all go because those are more certain to be available, and then maybe McDonough goes.
Gabranson is starting to look like he could end up re-signing in Vancouver, so that I've heard a lot in the last couple of days.
And that may be the case, but that's the shell game that Jim Benning is playing. I continue to think that is more a product of him not getting enough that he considers it a good offer to move him, because all year all they've been saying is we have no interest in signing Gabranson, and then 2 weeks before the deadline, lo and behold, oh my God, we want to sign him. It doesn't.
No, I mean I agree, and I think that's part of him saying that we don't have to trade him, we can re-sign him, and that's
sure.
But I do think that if Tampa's looking at this thing and they're looking at the price for McDonough and the price for Karlsson, they are more likely to pay the heavy price for Karlsson. I mean, Karlsson is not as good as McDonough is. Karlsson is Karlsson, right? So he's the best defenseman in the NHL by most people's standards, or many people's standards.
Adding
him to that, what is one of the best teams in the NHL, is incredibly attractive to them.
But what you said is probably the reason why Ottawa will wait till the summer if they do try to trade him at all, because if the market is just Tampa, then Tampa can dictate what they give Ottawa.
I'll give you another scenario. Here's another scenario. If they wait until the draft, they'll know where they are picking before the draft. And if they're not within those first 3 spots, maybe they try and get in those 3 spots so they get an amazing defenseman. So then they don't, have a replacement down the road.
Now, I don't know if this is counterintuitive, Russ, but I heard somebody say that if like Ottawa wins the lottery and they get Dahlin, that would lean toward them keeping Carlson because they want him to be sort of the veteran guy, the countryman. I don't buy it.
I disagree. I don't buy it.
I don't think Ottawa has any say on what happens with Carlson. I think Carlson's going to tell them what he's going to do. I really get that impression that whether
I agree with that.
Carlson wants to stay, he's staying. They'll find a way no matter what. No matter who they have, they'll find a way to keep him there. If he doesn't want to stay, they'll move him.
Eddie asks, any Olympic players that look like they could be signed by NHL teams for playoff depth? Now, we talked about Tolvanen, but he's already signed. Right. I read Pierre LeBrun saying that there are feelers about Brian Giunta with teams like Tampa and Boston. That's all. I'm just repeating what
I think people with vision problems are feeling for Brian Giunta. That's it.
Jeez.
Yeah, so far the U.S. team, I haven't really seen anything very impressive. Eric O'Dell from Canada is looking pretty good. He's looked pretty good. So far with
and he runs a hell of a website too.
I know. Who's that? No, I think the guy from Canada is the one guy from Canada. They scored the defenseman who scored the second goal yesterday. He's like a Spengler Cup regular. He's always with it.
I didn't see it.
Chad Genoway or Mark Lee or Chris Lee or
not Chris Lee. He's not really an NHLer typically, but he's looked really good. I gotta think of his name, but I think again he's like a.
I'll be honest. I don't even know what happened in the Russia-Slovenia game. Who won that?
If Russia didn't, then
see, we don't even know.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, Russ, I'm driving back from Toronto. I didn't even realize the U.S. had played Slovakia. So it's like, I mean,
I watched that game, but the Russia-Slovenia game was at 2:15 a.m.
Well, Cameron Young asks, what can you see Edmonton doing? They have fallen apart. The problem is that Edmonton they don't have guy. Yeah, they have Mark Letestu, who's a UFA, so they probably will move him, but they don't have a lot of like expiring contracts, and Nugent Hopkins is hurt.
They'll get a few late round picks probably for some of those guys, but that's it.
Yeah, there's some chatter about Oscar Klefbom being on the market, but I don't buy it. I think they're a team that does most of their work in the summer.
Yeah,
I don't see anything at the deadline. Eck?
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, the only thing I wrote about today a little bit. I'm sorry, I just got a text here from somebody.
I'll
train of thought completely. Sorry. What were we talking about again for a second there?
We're talking about hockey.
So what was the question you were
Thanks. Edmonton.
Yes, I'm sorry. I wrote about today. Pat Maroon. I wrote about Pat Maroon today. Pat Maroon has really been affected by the trade talk, I've been told. That he's really not happy about it at all, and has instructed his agent to talk to Edmonton and get a deal done. He does not want to be traded. He wants to stay there. So they're going to meet in the next 3 days about this and try to get a deal done, or work out something that says, "Listen, go somewhere else. We can get."
I think that's beneficial for them to keep him. I do,
but I think that McDavid loves him. McDavid wants him to stay there. That's why he's going to stay there. But I do think they may try to convince him very hard to do the whole thing, go get traded somewhere and then come back.
But if he doesn't want to do it, and
that's again, the team that might be. And I didn't know about this connection, but the team that might be interested in him, although I think they're focusing on defense and not another forward, is Tampa, because apparently Patrick Maroon was coached by John Cooper, low in the NAHL when he was in St. Louis, so they know each other and they're aware of each other. But I don't know. I think Tampa's going defense. And
all right, let's go one more question, then I got to run. Sorry.
Okay, sure. Let's see, who was it? Sorry, there was a question about Ilya Kovalchuk, which I think we'll skip.
Skip that.
Russia
beat up on Slovenia, by the way. Just looking.
Okay.
He did. They did. Okay. Yeah. No, that's it. What are the here? Thomas Smith asks, what are the chances that Green goes to the Lightning?
I think it's 40% chance.
Yeah, I think it's Green or Johnson going to the Lightning. I know that there was a report. I think it was Pierre LeBrun that said that Johnson had Columbus had an offer for Johnson that included a first-round pick. That's not what Columbus was looking for. They were looking for a winger for Johnson, but they might take the first-round pick, and it was a low first-round pick. And if you extrapolate from that and look at the teams lower in the standings, it's Washington, it's Tampa, it's those teams at the bottom of the at the top of the standings. So
I mean, look, when you're trading with Ken Holland, and even if you're Steve Yzerman, Ken Holland is looking for a pretty good return on this. So
yeah, Green will get a first-round pick. So will Johnson.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's 50-50 that Green goes to the Lightning. If he doesn't go to the Lightning, he goes to the Caps.
I think the Caps, and I think Vegas is in on it still. So I wouldn't go 50% off.
And Vegas would make sense, but
I would say it's more like 30% there. I still think the Caps are the favorite, honestly. But I think that and I think that Vegas and Tampa are about the same. I do think Tampa will get somebody for their defense, but I think the price for Green is really high. I mean, really, really high. And like I wrote about yesterday, I've heard Samsonov, mentioned from Capitals, and
I doubt it.
And
I severely doubt it.
It would be plus. It wouldn't just be Samsonov, for Green.
No, I know that, but Holtby's contract's getting close to running out, and unless they extend him, which I don't think they're going to, I think they're going to look at Samsonov to be their next guy. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I mean, they like him a lot. It depends on what Holtby does in the playoffs, honestly.
It's a Bishop Vasilevsky type of thing in Washington. So
yeah, except I hope he's better than Bishop. I mean, that's the difference.
Yeah,
he is.
He's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. So I'm one of the best goalies in the NHL. Sorry, I would be pretty good as a defenseman too, but he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. So I think that's good. All right, guys, let's go. Got to get out of here. Thanks so much, Russ, for your time. We appreciate it. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.